With all the crypto-friendly policies coming from the US lately, you'd think that the crypto market would be rallying like crazy. But, well, it isn't. The lackluster price action we've seen lately has many people wondering if things like Trump's crypto reserve are actually bullish, or if they're just a big old Nothingburger. And that's why today we're going to do a deep dive into these announcements and tell you how they could affect the crypto market, if at all. My name is Nick. Let's dive in. Now, before we dive into the specifics of the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve and what it could mean for Bitcoin, it's important to quickly take stock of what Trump has managed to achieve so far. As it happens, Trump has already managed to fulfill a number of promises that he made during his campaign. Immediately after reclaiming his old office, Trump selected David Sacks to be the White House's first ever crypto and AI czar. For those unaware, David is a member of the so-called PayPal Mafia, along with Elon Musk, who leads the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Trump then nominated pro-crypto individuals into key regulatory positions. These include selecting Paul Atkins as the chair of the SEC, Brian Quintes as chair of the CFTC, Travis Hill as chair of the FDIC, and Jonathan Gold as the chair of the OCC. And you can of course learn more about the pro-crypto appointees by checking out our recent video right over here. Trump then followed through on a number of other promises, including the pardoning of Ross Ulbricht on the 21st of January, the day after he was inaugurated. Not only that, but since Trump took office, the process of exposing and ending Operation Chokepoint 2.0 has been put into effect. This saw the FDIC release a whopping 790 pages exposing the calculated efforts of the regulator's previous leadership to block the crypto industry from accessing banking services. Meanwhile, the OCC has since said that it has a better grasp of the industry and has laid out guidance for crypto banking. Elsewhere, Senator Cynthia Lummis is again proposing the Bitcoin Act that was first introduced during Trump's campaign last year, albeit with a few changes. These include allowing the government to potentially hold more than 1 million BTC, which was the soft limit previously set. Notably, the bill previously required that all cryptos forked from Bitcoin, such as Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin Gold, must also be held by the government for at least 5 years, unless authorized by law to transfer or sell. The changes now add that the Commerce Secretary must evaluate the assets based on market cap and retain the dominant asset. Interesting to say the least. And more recently, the Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act, aka the Genius Act, passed through the Senate Banking Committee with bipartisan support following Trump's White House's crypto summit, which we'll come to in a second. Now, obviously, the announcement that really had lots of people talking were Trump's signing of 2 executive orders related to the crypto industry. The first of these was signed on the 23rd of January, just 3 days after Trump took office. This executive order establishes, quote, an internal working group to make America the world capital in crypto. This group consists of U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Attorney General Pam Bondi, yet to be confirmed SEC Chairman Paul Atkins, and yet to be confirmed CFTC Chairman Brian Quintes, as well as members of Trump's cabinet and other agency heads. Notably, the move also revokes a previous executive order set by former President Joe Biden, which labeled crypto as an inherent risk that needed to be managed through strict regulatory measures. Trump's order also prohibited the establishment, issuance, circulation, and use of a CBDC, and set out plans to create clear stablecoin regulations. Then, on the 7th of March, Trump signed a second executive order for crypto, and this time establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve and a digital asset stockpile. This executive order temporarily took the crypto industry by storm, but the hype died down almost as quickly as it erupted. And this has everyone wondering what exactly it means for all of crypto. Before we get onto that though, if you're enjoying this video so far, then show it by smashing that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and ping the notification bell to make absolutely sure you don't miss our next video.
Oh, sorry, I just had to take a break from that video to check the Coin Bureau deals page. You know, the one place you'll go to get exchange sign-up bonuses of up to $100,000 and trading fee discounts of up to 70%. Or how about discounts on hardware wallets, as well as exclusive altcoin alpha in the Coin Bureau Club? Well, more information in the description. Now, back to the video.
Now, when it comes to the strategic Bitcoin reserve, this will initially be made up of the BTC previously seized by the US government and held by the US Treasury. David has said that the reserve will act as a, quote, digital Fort Knox for the cryptocurrency, specifying that it would be hodled indefinitely as a store of value. Believe it or not, but this could actually happen, and that's simply because of the opportunity cost that came with selling too early. As David explained, the US government has previously sold off around 195,000 BTC for a total of around 336 million. But if they'd simply held onto it, this BTC would now be worth tens of billions of dollars. In addition to the US government holding its current stack of sats, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will work with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to determine ways to add more BTC in the future without affecting the taxpayer. The Treasury will also work with other federal agencies to evaluate their legal authority to transfer any BTC they own into the reserve. Meanwhile, when it comes to the Digital Asset Stockpile, which consists entirely of altcoins, things work a little differently. Like the strategic Bitcoin reserve, the Digital Asset Stockpile will consist of crypto that was previously seized from illicit activity. Note that this was pretty obvious in retrospect. It was literally specified in the first executive order about crypto that Trump signed back in January. Unlike the strategic Bitcoin reserve, however, there are no plans to add to the digital asset stockpile, with the only exception being any altcoins seized from illicit activities in the future. David has said that the purpose of this digital asset stockpile is for, quote, responsible stewardship of the government's digital assets under the Treasury Department. To be blunt, this basically means that the government is slapping a fancy label on the crypto it's already held for a while in order to bring it under its regulatory jurisdiction. In other words, the digital asset stockpile is just meant to increase the legitimacy of the crypto industry. It's also important to note that the government is open to the idea of selling these altcoins in the future. Come to think of it, this would be an easy way to fund those extra BTC purchases we mentioned a moment ago. Now, as you may have heard, Trump caused a bit of confusion when he declared the digital asset stockpile. And that's because on the 3rd of March, just days before signing the executive order, Trump posted on his Truth Social platform that the reserve would include XRP, Sol, and ADA. He later added that ETH and BTC would be, quote, the heart of the reserve. However, David Sachs was asked about this in an interview shortly after, to which he replied that all Trump was doing was reeling off a list of the top altcoins by market cap, and that people were reading too much into it. This is eye-opening, as it's possible that the US government doesn't even currently hold any of these cryptos. The crazy thing is that nobody knows for sure. Sachs revealed that there's never been a complete audit of the US government's crypto stash, and noted that the executive order calls for such an audit to take place. So, until that audit is complete, nobody knows exactly which altcoins will be included in the US's digital asset stockpile. That said, though, there is a way to get a feel for what could be included. According to Arkham Intelligence, the US government holds around $17.1 billion worth of crypto at the time of shooting. $16.7 billion of that is made up of 198,100 BTC, with roughly $500 million in other digital assets. At this point in time, this includes 122 million in USDT, more than 60,000 ETH worth around 117 million, 750 wrapped BTC worth around 63 million, and over 40,000 BNB worth around 24 million, among others, of course. It goes without saying that this won't be the full list of what's been included in the digital asset stockpile, but it does give us a bit of a glimpse into what the government holds nonetheless. From our perspective, there's no reason why these cryptos wouldn't be part of the reserve. Now, following the executive order about the crypto reserves, Trump hosted the first ever crypto summit at the White House, where he addressed several plans to foster crypto innovation in the US. The roundtable included crypto czar David Sachs, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, as well as the heads of the regulatory agencies like SEC Crypto Task Force Head Hester Pierce and CFTC Acting Chair Carolyn Pham. Other notable attendees included crypto industry figureheads like Strategy's Michael Saylor and Coinbase's CEO Brian Armstrong, to name just but a few. It should come as no surprise then that crypto investors everywhere were waiting with bated breath in anticipation of what could be announced. The only problem is that the summit featured a lot of talking without anything new really being said. Trump did highlight a number of mistakes the previous administration had made towards crypto, including paying particular attention to Operation Chokepoint 2.0, which he said the Treasury and Commerce departments were working with the OCC to shut down for good. Trump also clarified that the US government would not sell any of its Bitcoin under his watch, which we're sure made Michael Saylor a very happy man. The president also reiterated that the BTC being hodled would form part of the Bitcoin strategic reserve, according to the executive order he'd signed shortly beforehand. He then confirmed that the new digital asset stockpile would be created from assets other than Bitcoin, and explained that he had ordered the Treasury and Commerce departments to provide new ways for the government to acquire more Bitcoin without spending any taxpayer dollars. There are a few ways in which this Bitcoin could be accumulated that are budget neutral, and I actually listed a few of these in a tweet right over here, which will also be linked to down below. But these are things like using the funds from the Exchange Stabilization Fund, selling gold reserves, a sovereign wealth fund, etc., etc. Anywho, if this summit all feels like a bit of a repetition to you, that's because it is. The Crypto Summit essentially turned out to be a recap of moves that Trump's team has previously already put into action. And this is precisely why the market failed to pump on any of the announcements. In fact, it actually took a bit of a slight dip as investors felt entirely underwhelmed. And to be blunt, it's not hard to see why. However, there was one key standout that seems to have fallen off everyone's radar from the summit, and that was Scott Bessent underscoring plans to use stablecoins to ensure that the US dollar maintains its global dominance. This is extremely significant because it suggests that stablecoins could in fact become widely adopted for payments in the US, to the point that they become the de facto digital dollar. And this would be a huge leap for crypto adoption in the States, and indeed the rest of the world as a result. So then, that brings us up to speed with everything Trump had announced so far, and that leaves us with the question we asked in the introduction. Is this really bullish, or are we looking at one big Nothingburger? Well, there's no denying that price action in the market has been very much meh. And it's likely because these announcements were already priced in. Put simply, crypto investors have been anticipating Trump's pro-crypto stance ever since he announced himself as an ally of the crypto industry during his election campaign. This is likely why the charts are looking a little flat lately. However, this can also be taken as a bullish signal in itself. And that's because we could have easily seen crypto prices taking a huge retracement after the White House summit, as investors sold the news. Instead, though, the market has shown some resilience, optimism, dare I say. The reason for this is simple. While there may be uncertainty around things like the so-called trade war fueled by Trump's tariffs, ultimately, this doesn't change the long-term picture, which remains incredibly bullish. The regulatory landscape in the US is shaping up to be more pro-crypto than ever before, with crypto innovation being actively encouraged. The strategic reserve announcements also have a direct impact on BTC's future supply. Trump's no-sell policy means that any future selling from the US government is theoretically gone for the foreseeable future. The reserve also adds an additional layer of legitimacy, since the US endorsed BTC as a strategic asset. This could help institutions feel more comfortable investing in crypto, especially Bitcoin, as it's clearly identified as a unique crypto asset by these recent announcements. These announcements could also encourage other countries to follow in the US's footsteps by holding their sats as a strategic reserve. This could foreshadow Bitcoin's further integration into the global financial system, and it's likely that other cryptos would eventually follow suit in this regard. That said, more clarity is definitely needed, especially when it comes to the digital asset stockpile made up of altcoins. Not only is it unclear which altcoins are to be in this stockpile, but it also seems that the government isn't entirely sure what to do with them. Clarity around this simple fact could be a bullish catalyst for altcoins in general. Imagine a scenario where the US government discovers it's holding large amounts of Sol, XRP, and other top altcoins that it just never bothered accounting for, and then declares that these assets will be held like BTC. That would definitely be bullish and would likewise inspire other investors to do the same. So, while things may be looking grim in the short term, as we get towards the horizon, all signs point to an eventual glorious sunrise. Now, if you enjoyed that video, then you have to check out our video right over here on global strategic Bitcoin reserves as well. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, you can do that right over here. That's me for now. See you next time.